So if you tap on my screen sharing window, you should be able to zoom it. First of all, I want to thank you, Mozilla and Matt, for inviting me to this podcast. And I want to thank you, Damon, for coming here. He's one of my best friends online, and he helps me a lot with giving me a lot of ideas on my SoraSNS and other apps. Thank you, Mozilla, Matt, and Damon a lot. All right, as you can see, I have no slides, but I'm not a designer. I'm a software engineer. I do have an application that introduces myself. I'm online. I'm known as MSc Pro online, and I started computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania. I worked at Apple for a special project related to AR. So everyone know what that is. And so I have individually developed around 55 apps and published them on the App Store. Recently, even some games. I'll just show you. So these are some of my recent apps, so including some games. And on the AI side, I have developed some AI applications. So for example, I have an artistic QR code generator, like this fancy anime styled QR codes that you can still scan, but it's like an anime piece of art. It runs locally on iPhone, of course. It's local AI. And then so today I'm gonna talk about a SoraSNS, which is a Fediverse application. So let me just switch over to, so yeah, that's the art AI. Let me just switch over to my SoraSNS. As you can see, this is SoraSNS, which is a Fediverse client. So this connects to Mastodon, Misskey, Bluesky, and Pleroma, which is the Fediverse platforms. When opening the app, the first thing is the timeline, right? But what's interesting is, as you can see at the bottom, this timeline is called For You. And you might think like, hey, wait a minute, like where does For You timeline come from, right? Mastodon and Misskey and this Fediverse only have the following timeline, the local timeline, and the federated timeline. Like where does this For You come from? So in Sora SNS, it learns about your interests as you like posts, as you interact with different contents, and then it fetches content for you. For example, if I scroll down here a little bit, interesting post about Linux and about cats. Hey, look at what this sign is. It says predicted. So this is a post that is fetched by Sora software, from the Fediverse. It's not necessarily from your server, it's from across the Fediverse. For example, if you are self-hosting an instance yourself, and if you open your timeline for the first time, it might be empty because you are not following any accounts. But if you use Sora, even if you do not have any following, you still see a full timeline. And that is based on what you might be interested in. So here I got a cat because I love cats. And then you get more cat pictures. And here you got some photographies, more cat pictures, iPhone news, and there got to be something other than cat picture, right? So this one, yeah, it's still about kittens and flowers. So these are predictions. And you might ask, like, how does prediction work? Like, how do you make local predictions? When a post comes into Sora, what happens is that it uses natural language analysis to analyze the context of this post. So, for example, here within the text of the post, we have different kinds of vocabularies, right? We have nouns, we have adjectives, we have adverbs, we have verbs. So the first step of Sora is to filter out all these adjectives and only get the topics the post is talking about. For example, here we can see the topic is about the cat, right? And then, for example, here we get this post, we get this topic, and then what's happening here is Sora in the background will tokenize all the topic keywords from the post. It will run a vector similarity calculation, and then we'll try to group these keywords together. For example, a post can contain keywords like this, like autumn, cosmos, this Japan. But in general, they are just talking about like a tourist spot in Japan. So this Sora will understand this post as, hey, this is about a travel post for Japan. This is about a flower. This is about nature. And then it will generate a score for this post and match it with the user's interest. So if the post aligns with the user's interest, it will have a very high score. And if the post does not align with the user's interest, it will have a low score. And Sora generates a timeline by picking the post with the highest scores. So as a post coming from the streams, from the Fediverse timelines, it got into this feed mixer where each post is assigned a score. And then we pack the highest scored post and show it to the timeline. As I like a post, what's happening here is Sora analyzes the keywords and then increases the score for the topics of the post. What's more interesting is I can actually view the data generated by the local AI. For example, on the first section, you can see all the keywords related to cats are grouped together. For example, we have cats, cat, we have Catterday, we have a cat's paws. These are all words related to cats and they are grouped together. This is highly likely. This is rank number one. When I view my post, cats is going to take the most proportion of my timeline. And you can see the second one is about Pokemon artists. And you can see what's interesting here is Pokemon is automatically linked to artists and arts because most of the Pokemon works are anime arts, right? So the local AI, by calculating the vector similarity and using local LLM, it understands that Pokemon is usually linked to artists, is usually linked to arts and anime works. So this is also linked together here. And we have a photography here. And what's interesting is you can see natural photography, you can see landscape. So these two keywords does not have any overlapping sections. But what's more interesting is the local LLM recognizes that landscape also belongs to the category of photography and it groups it together to the same group. And as you can see here, it doesn't only work for English, it works for other languages too. For example, here I have a Japanese keyword group for illustrations, and then it's linked with Pokemon illustrations. So this is how Sora prediction works. It analyzes each keyword in a post. So first it extracts, it understands the types of vocabularies in a post. For example, these are nouns, these are verbs, these are adjectives, and then it tries to use similarity calculation to group the keyword together for a post. And then if you like a post, it adds your preference. And then when you view a timeline, it fetches and prioritizes the post that you might be interested in. All right, so that's the prediction feature of Sora. And now let me show you another feature called similar to this post. So if I tap to here, which is a post about Japan and about the tourist spots, if I scroll down here, what's interesting is here you can see these are similar posts. Here you can see it suggests autumn leaves, autumn vibes, autumn colors, because it might understand this post as depicting the autumn season, which is incoming. So it got all these autumn posts all showed up right here. I can also try another post, for example, this cat, and then if I scroll to the bottom here, I can see all other cats. And this doesn't just include cat pictures, this also includes cat illustrations. This is another prediction feature. If I open, for example, a post about Apple, you might see more posts about Apple. So that's the similar to this post feature. What's more interesting is it's a local ML, so sometimes it gets it wrong, right? So for example, if I 10 posts about cats last week, but I don't like cats anymore, I can fine tune my local prediction by swiping cars, just like Tinder. So what this will do is this will fetch some of the broader posts from the Fediverse, and you can just scroll to the right to like it, and scroll to the right, scroll to the right to like it, or scroll to the left to dislike it. And what this will do is that this will fine tune your algorithm and this will update your prediction preferences. So this is a swipe cars to local ML feature. And now I'm going to show you another interesting feature, which is local LLM. So as there are many local LLMs just running on your iPhone. So that includes like Llama and Microsoft Phi. So here in Sora, you actually can download a local LLM module to help with the prediction process. For example, here I have Microsoft Phi enabled here. And what I can do is, for example, if I have a post that has a lot of comments, right? For example, this one from Nixcraft about Unix, macOS, and FreeBSD. So there are many replies here, but actually I don't want to read them all. So there's a button called Summarize Replies. I'm gonna click it. It's gonna load the local MML module, LLM module. You can see it's loading, it's outputting, and here we go. So you got a summary of all the replies, and you can see a user shares frustration or typing CD to the root repeatedly. Yeah, I can relate to that. So yeah, this is what's powered by local LLM running directly on your iPhone without calling any APIs. As you can see, this is summarized of Microsoft Phi, but you can also adjust it to you can also adjust it to Llama, and in the future, you can also use other local LLM models. What's more interesting is this also provides you with the ability to summarize news discussions. And on the Fediverse, people like to share news and like to share the opinions about a news article. So, for example, if we tap a news about this, maybe about the recent hurricane, and then we can see a tab called discussions on the top right corner. So there are 20 discussions related to this piece of article, and what I can do is I can tap on summarize thread. If this works, that's how you know it's a live demo. I'm just gonna quickly restart this application here. This is, by the way, this is still, so the local element feature is still a test flight build, but it will come to the App Store by the end of this week. So I'm just gonna try that again by trying, maybe let's try this e-learning platform news. So I'm gonna go to the discussion section and we're gonna try it again. Yes, it seems to be working. So it's inferencing and well, you can imagine it works. So if it works, it will just summarize all the threads. I believe this is a UI issue, but supposedly what the feature will do, it is just similar to summarizing your replies. It will summarize all the threads. It works in the same way. So this is by using local LLM, and it just all runs on your local phone. And another feature I want to show you is, let's see, so it's a discovery tab. So in the discovery tab, you also get suggestions on which accounts to follow. This is also powered by local prediction engine from SoraSNS. And you got all these tags, which are also predicted. So these are what Sora thinks you might be interested in and also recommended accounts. And of course, what's unique here is SoraSNS has a video timeline. So this also uses a prediction engine because there are so many videos on the Fediverse platform. And what's more interesting is because Fediverse, the videos on Fediverse, they're not like, because Fediverse is relatively new, right? Like on Twitter, if you open a video, you have an infinite amount of video you can scroll over. But for the Fediverse, there's just some videos are coming from strangers. You don't know the content of the video, you don't know the quality of the video. So what's happening here is once Sora receives a video, it runs a local ML engine to analyze whether the video is sensitive, whether the video is low quality. So it checks for NSFW. So it makes sure all the videos shown here are not are not unsuitable for work. And then it tries to use your preferences to pick this video from the internet. So from the Fediverse. And you can also open it and just choose the Fediverse post. So yeah, that is Sora. What you got is a local prediction engine, and basically it tries to analyze from your interactions with posts and accounts. And based on your interaction history, it has a score for each topic, and you can view the score right here in Sora, and it uses that preference to generate your timeline. So you will see posts outside of your following circle, posts from other instances of the Fediverse too. And when you tap a post, you can summarize all the replies. And if it's a thread, you can summarize the thread. And if it's a news discussion, you can also summarize the news discussion. I think this is where local ML can really play a role here, because as smartphones are getting better chips, and they're getting these neural engines. So you're able to run, I'm actually running like a 3 GB Llama 3.1 module, and it works pretty smooth, I have to say. And the output is pretty much generated with less than 15 seconds. I think this is where local ML can really stand out, is to provide a centralized experience, like close to Twitter experience, even if you're on the Fediverse, even if you don't have this big query, even if you don't have this advanced online algorithm, you can still get a pretty interesting timeline to play around with. So yeah, that is Sora. Sorry, I got a little bit nervous at the beginning, so but if you got any questions, please feel free to ask me. Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, about Matt's questions. What models have you found working best for you? So far, I find that the Microsoft Phi for the local LLM works great. It provides outputs pretty fast, reasonably fast on my, this is iPhone 15 Pro Max. It works reasonably fast on a mobile device. I did try with Llama 3.1. The issue is I think it takes relatively more memory. It has a relatively higher memory consumption, and running on mobile mobile standpoint, I think Microsoft Phi is a great model to work with. Yeah, and you just get to have the correct settings. So for example, you have to use iPhone, you can use the Metal engine, and you can use neural engine, you can use GPU and compile it to a Core ML compatible format. Really helps a lot. So if you run like a native format of the model, so for example these tensor files, it might not work very great if you just call the C++, and not work very well. But if you convert it to like Core ML compatible format, it should work pretty good. Is there an online space where testers gather to share results and help with bugs? I think that's a great question. I'm working on a app where you can test all these online modules. You can just put your URL to a Hugging Face repository, and you can just run the model directly on the iPhone. I was talking with Damon a few weeks ago about that. I was calling it like a local ML zoo or something like that. But I think maybe in that app, I can add a section where user can provide feedbacks like, hey, how is this running on the local mobile device, right? How is that model running? How is that model working? Things like that. Question from Damon. Have you tried using models with prediction engine and timeline algorithm? Yes, this is a great question. So I was actually thinking to mention this earlier in my demo, but I got to notice and I forgot about it. So for the prediction engine you see here in Sora, so this is, as I said, this is powered by, one second, sorry, one second. My screen sharing just got paused. Let me try it again. Select the window. All right, here we go. In the prediction engine, you can see like the place where you can see different keywords. Sometimes, because that is based on natural language analysis, sometimes it got the keywords wrong. A local LLM can have more context about different keywords. So what's happening here is that Sora in the background, right, when you are casually browsing through your timeline, or if the app is in the background, it will try to use local LLM to better group the keywords, right? So for example, if you're viewing cat day, right, a cats, but there's actually a Fediverse server called Catodon, right? Catodon, right? I think it's Catodon, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Catodon. So Catodon clearly refers to the software, right? It refers to a Fediverse software. So it has nothing to do with cats, although its mascot is a cat. So it should be grouped to the Fediverse category. So in that case, an LLM has the knowledge to better group it. And that's exactly where Sora uses LLM to better group the keywords, right? In addition to using natural language analysis. Mate's question from Matt, I'm sorry. Question from Matt. Swapping to train is genius. Have you had any response from testers yet on this specific feature? I think that's a great question. From users' feedbacks, I do not think a lot of users actually tried that feature. So what I'm doing is, so remember, so when the user installs Sora for the first time, right, it has no data about what the user is interested in, right? Like the local prediction data is empty. What I did is, in that case, I show the swipe to discover interface with random posts from the Fediverse. And as the user scroll, right, for example, if you like a post with dog pictures, right, Sora will fetch pictures about similar topics like cats, foxes, other wildlife animals, or aquarium, and then it will try to guess what the user is interested in. That's another important feature I missed during my demo. During the onboarding, it is more like a adaptive onboarding, similar to what I said. It guesses what you are interested in. So if you like post about pet, it features more post about pet, but about other animals, other type of aquarium like dolphins. It tests out different interests, and it uses that to fill up your initial empty prediction profile. So that's how it works. How does that work under the hood? So remember I said, so when you like a post or interact with the content, Sora will like assign a score, right, for that topic group, right? For example, pets, for example, like space, stars, sea life. When you swipe the cards, it also shows, so when, in your timeline, the prediction posts are based on like the top 10, right? Or the top 15 of your most interested topics. But when you swipe a card, all sorts of topics are shown. For example, even if you just liked one post about NFL, for example, so it will show you more posts about NFL to check if you actually like that topic, if you actually like to see more about NFL, or if you just accidentally click the like button for an NFL post. So that's how prediction works. Like it tests out whether you actually like a topic or whether you are just like liking it because it's posted by your best friend, or if you're just liking it by accident. So that's how swipe into discovery works. So question from Damon, have you thought about using the models for content moderation? I think that's a great question. So I'm looking forward to integrating an admin toolkit for Sora where you can log in as admin and then you can do the moderation features. I think that would be a great use case for local ML, especially local LM I just showed. It can potentially just flag all these sensitive posts or like inappropriate posts, and then admins can take actions. I think that's actually a great idea. Maybe I can even make that a separate app. So just for Fediverse instance admins, they can use that to do better moderation. So yeah, I agree. Using local LLM to do moderation is like actually a great idea. And I think someone should do it, and I will do it. Question from Matt. Matt, how will you get paid for this great work? Is there a monetization plan? A lot of the users on the internet, they, especially in the Fediverse field, they don't want to pay because Fediverse is an open platform, and they feel. So the thing is, in the initial version, I have ads in there. Like I even feel sorry myself. Like I shouldn't do that. I know I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't do it, but I need to make some money. So in the initial version, I had Google Ads. I know that has a very bad reputation. I shouldn't even mention that word in a Mozilla meeting. But I had Google Ads in the first version, and I immediately regretted it because a lot of users said, "Hey, what? Why am I seeing Google Ads in the Fireworks? What the hell are you doing?" And then they immediately removed the app. They give 1-star reviews. I removed that. I added a paid plan for some features. I think it's reasonable. I packed the price lower than any other Fediverse apps. I think the monthly subscription is only $1, around $1, and the lifetime purchase is like $30. Like I don't want to do it, but I need to make a living. So I do have a paid feature plan in Sora. So essentially that will enable you for features like algorithm fine tune and multiple accounts, like more than 3 accounts. But like all the core Fediverse features are free. So if you download the app, you can use them for free. But yeah, I think my prices are pretty reasonable. So question from Sean, with the different models you use for machine learning, you mentioned that you have to tweak settings to make things work better. What does the process of optimizing AI to perform better on device look like? I think that's a great question. As more apps are looking to integrate local AI, I remember when Stable Diffusion came out, I'm the first iOS app that supports running it on the iOS device because the model is pretty large. It has an encoder, it has a decoder, it has the weights file, right? It has what I did very interestingly is to after loading, you encode your input tokens. So you input your encode your input text to tokens, and you immediately deinitialize that from the memory, and then you load your weights. You load your model weights. You load all all these layers, right? And then you provide these inputs to the layers, and after that is done, you unload that from the memory again, and then you load your decoders, right? So I think one of the improvements that people can make is to only load the necessary components when you are only load what you're using. So for example, if you're encoding a text, you load that, and then after you finish encoding the text, you unload it. I think the second part is to use system resources as much as possible. So in iOS 18, what I'm taking advantage of actually is in iOS 17, I believe there is a system included text encoder. So I think that's a great idea. So you don't have to you don't have to load your text encoders. You can use the system provided API to encode a text and decode the text to vectors. I think that's a very useful feature. My second suggestion would be, and also iOS provides the natural language analysis models. For example, in the demo I showed you where it shows different parts of a sentence, like this is a noun, this is a subject, this is the object. it uses the iOS system natural language framework. So this also prevents your app from using too much memory. So I think this is the second part, is to use as much API provided by the system as possible, right? If it's provided by the system, don't load your own ML module. I believe as iOS like advances, like there's Android, it's the same. I think Google has a lot of AI models and ML modules running locally, and you should also use this as much as possible. They save resources and they're optimized for the system. And the third part is to use hardwares, right? If your phone has a GPU, right? On iPhone, you can use GPU. You can import the Metal framework and use the GPU. So choose the right hardware. iPhone, I think you can choose between, if you initialize an ML engine, you can use CPU only, you can use CPU and GPU, you can use neural engine. So my suggestion is, if you're developing local ML app for iOS, on the Mac, use GPU only, and on the iPhone, use neural engine. So that is from my experience. Max Cell, we have an app with user-generated content. Can we integrate some of these tools? Okay, so I think that, yeah, definitely. You can, I think what you can do is you can try to run, if you want to do content moderation or if you want to run local LLM, you can basically use, I recommend Microsoft Phi. If you go to Hugging Face and you search for Microsoft Phi, I think the newest one is 3 or 3.1, you can use that model in your iOS app. I do think you should only, yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Demo. It's 3.1. So try Microsoft 5 3.1. That works in the demo I just showed. So the thing you need to notice is it might only work for advanced models of iPhones. For example, the Pro models, because they have higher memory. On an Android, you might want to check for the device memory, right? Because I have received feedback from users where the app would crash sometimes if running on, say, iPhone SE, right? Which not a lot of people use, right? Still have the home screen. Do be careful, provide a fallback option is what I suggest. Fall back to a online AI or fall back, provide a graceful fallback. So don't cry, because the thing is, if you integrate local ML, the same why I didn't include local ML in App Store version so far, but I will do next week, is because I'm afraid the app will crash. It will provide a bad user experience. Like you should at least provide like a toggle, right? So for example, if the user can turn on and turn off the ML module, also don't load the ML module on App Start. Like in that case, if the app starts, the app just crashes and the user has no way to turn it off. So this is a very practical advice, I think, is to provide a fallback. Detect if your app crashes, detect if the ML model runs successfully. If it does not run successfully, just turn it off automatically. Like you don't want the user to not even be able to access the basic features of the app. So I think this is an important tip for all the local ML developers, right? You want to provide a great experience. We are cloud-based now, but I want to move to as much slim as possible as we're aimed to scientific and exploration content. It just feels like the right direction. Do you consult on custom projects? I'm actually full on the company project, but do feel free to DM me on Discord. I'm happy to answer questions and help other developers. If you have a question, you can DM me, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Not on a client project level, but I will be happy to answer your questions. If you have any other question, feel free to drop it in the chat, because I feel discussions like this part is where I say more contents comparing to my demo. Like in my demo, I'm just showing like how I want to demo it. But I think if you ask a question, I will say more about how I implemented the softwares. Oh, thank you, Matt. Great tips. Yeah, thank you. Demo, what other local ML apps do you have? All right, so I was just about to show it on my phone. Let's see. Let me reconnect my iPhone because there's something wrong with my screen sharing. Sorry. Let's see. Not gonna do the camera. Let's see. I'm gonna share my phone. All right. I have a art AI app. What this does is that it generates this artistic QR codes. Remember, I'll show it to you in a second. So this Irish releases like December 2020, which is like 2 years now, right? 2 years from now. Yeah, this is still during the pandemic. Yeah, so this app basically, sorry. Basically, this app runs on iPhone, And what it does is that you see these QR codes. If I zoom in a little bit, so these are actually arts, right? You will basically input like your QR code, and then you input a design, like basically a prompt to the stable diffusion model. I think it's stable diffusion 3 I'm running here. And then basically, this is like a Wukong style, right? Tempo in the cloud. Basically, it runs the whole stable diffusion on your iPhone. And because of that, it takes 30 minutes. I think that's why most people haven't tried this app yet. But this is local AI. I know Mozilla AI is a huge advocate on local AI, right? Open source AI, local AI. And in my products, I also embrace local AI because I don't trust in big companies like Google. They take the data and whoever knows what they do with the data. I have a lot of apps in local. This one is also local AI, so it generates all this image locally on your iPhone. And in the review, I don't think that people know technology. They said, "Hey, there's another app that generates the image in 1 minute." But you know what? They actually send it to the cloud. They send it to Google. They send it to Bard. They send it to OpenAI. They send it to this big company. So your data is already at other people's hands. And these people just don't understand. Like this is running locally. The people they don't understand it. I think that's another issue with local AI. Like average consumers, they don't understand that the big companies like are taking the data. They think it's convenient. Hey, I can just ask this AI like this quickly and they provide response quickly to me. But what they don't understand is that the processing is not happening on the device, it's happening on the cloud, on someone else's computer. I think that's another issue with local AI that I or maybe a broader range of audience need to toggle with is to make the everyday people understand it's great. It's better to run AI locally on your device, right? Maybe in your home. Maybe I have an NIS device, right? I have a home Mac Mini that's running my local AI actually, and then if I'm outside or my families, they can access the AI running at home. So that's more running the AI near you or running AI on your own devices instead of using the cloud. So I think this is very hard to convince to general audience. Yeah, but back to the topic. So this is I have this. Please feel free to try this out. It's called Art AI Local Diffuser. You can go to SoraSNS page. And then it has all my apps. I'll go through them. I won't take too much of a time, trust me. But so you can search for Sora SS and tap this company name, and you should see all my apps. This is actually just my own company. There's no other stuff. Even if you say, hey, it's a company, wait, you are a team. No, it's just myself. I also have an image enlarger. I think this is pretty standard, right? This is like a 80 megabyte image super resolution model, also running locally on your device. The only caveat I think is that the image it produces are quite large. Actually, it's about 50 megabytes. Might need to work with that, but it works great, I think. And I also have a Matrix messenger. So you can see I'm a huge embracer for the open source community. I also like the Matrix chat protocol. So this also uses local AI. You can chat this local AI in this app. You can summarize group messages, etc. You have this, you have AI dictionary. So this dictionary doesn't actually have any embedded dictionaries. So it's actually an AI dictionary. So if you ask it questions or definitions, it's actually just AI like a ML generated. So there's no vocabulary embedded. Just some of my adventures about AI. This one actually has no users, I believe, but I think this is an awesome chance I'm gonna show it. It has yeah, so nobody actually discovered it. And I think that's another issue with like indie developers, small teams. Like it's hard to get noticed. But yeah, um, yeah, AI chat. So I'm about to rebrand this app into a local AI. This is actually an online AI, but yeah, I'll rebrand this app. Back to the comment section. Running locally is not understood. Yeah, that's right. It's not understood. We need to make everyday people know the benefits of running AI on the local device. Sean said, yeah, that might be a good value proposition. Maybe even frame it as is your personal private and only tell. Yeah, that's a good idea. I remember Damon talking to me about an idea of making a Digimon on your phone. I think that's a great idea. Actually, I saw like in recent days, many people are in seeking of psychological services, right? Like they need because of the pandemic, maybe because of the pressures from the society. Many people are in need of. Yeah, many people are in need of someone to speak to, right? Someone to talk about ideas. But I don't, first of all, I don't trust this online AIs. If you're gonna share your secrets with an online AI, like how you think inside, it's not necessarily a secret, it's not, but it's like what you think, right? What you think inside of each person, I think that's a secret, right? Everyone's thoughts should be a secret, right? That it should be confidential, right? I definitely wouldn't provide that to an online AI. Like, hey, I'm gonna chat about your mental problem with an open AI. No, I'm definitely not. Why I'm gonna do that? I'm gonna receive advertisements about. I think that might be a perfect chance for local AI, right? So an AI model trained, or maybe not trained, but maybe fine-tuned toward you, right? How you think, how you talk, and how it might resolve your mental, how it might improve your mental state, right? So I think that might be a great idea because one thing I always keep in my mind when making my apps is how do I make people feel better? I don't want to make apps that make people feel worse. I don't want to make apps that make people, hey, they have their phone every day. I want to make apps that make people feel happy. I think local AI have the potential for that, and maybe like a digital character that's powered by local AI that's trustable by people. You can manage the data, export it. It's just on your phone. You can even view the data. I think that would be a great idea. Some people do chat with AI on a personal level that goes to the cloud. Yeah, I feel that's pretty amazing. These people don't care about privacy. Here in Japan, actually, a lot of people use AI actually, but I think there's an app on the App Store. There are a lot of apps on the App Store that are marked as, I think it's called couple consultant. Like you input your chat text with your like a girlfriend or boyfriend, and then analyzes, hey, this person might be that many percentage interested in you. You should do that next. I really don't think that's a good idea. No, I think that's a good idea, but I don't think it's a good idea to provide that data to the app, right? Because first of all, it goes to the developer, and sometimes developers can read that information, right? So they log that information. A lot of apps say they don't log information, but they actually do. So first of all, developers get to see that, and you have the login, right? So developer know who you are, and then the cloud service see that. I think it's mostly likely using OpenAI, and the OpenAI sees that, so it's not a good idea. And speaking of which, in my app, you can feel free to use SSL or man in the middle tool to inspect the traffic, and you will see it's only there's no personal information sent to the cloud or sent to my server. But I don't think a lot of developers can confidently see that. They can analyze the app. You can, of course, you just use like a Charles or Kali Linux or whatever to analyze the traffic, or like a Wireshark, and you will see there's no data sent to the cloud. I believe a lot of developers can't see that, and I feel that's pretty bad. But yeah, regarding AI, like there's so many OpenAI wrapper apps. I would say the OpenAI API goes down. Like 99% of these wrapper apps also go down. That's how you know it's like using OpenAI. So yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it's great to respect users' privacy because I use this app daily too. My families, they use my app too. I always have that in mind. Please do feel free to ask me anything, just anything like softwares, my apps, or even about Japan, my city. I live in Kyoto. It's a very ancient city. I think the history, so the history goes back here. Like some buildings are built like in 800 years. So it's 1,200 years ago. And so it's really amazing. And it's pretty interesting too. Like I'm doing technology here in this culture focused city, which also feels great. So. How did you publish so many apps? How do you keep up with updating them? For 1 second. Actually, if at Carnegie Mellon, I'm that kind of student who people say in high school, if you sit in the front, you're usually the best student because you would want the teacher to ask you questions and answer questions. But if you're in university, you are a genius if you sit in the back because you're working on something else, and if the teacher calls you, you can still answer that question fluently. Like at Carnegie Mellon, I'm that kind of student who have my laptop open. I remember doing the Wi-Fi 213, right? It's a system class. It's like a kernel level system class and memories and processors, processes, etc. I'm that student who would program iOS apps on my laptop. And then the teacher, when the professor asks a question about memory, I can raise my hand and answer it. Just joking. Yeah, but yeah. So how do I publish so many apps? I think it's just even during high school, I'm just coding on my computer during my free time, and in university too. I code on my computer in my free time. So I remember during the great interview, awesome interview from me with Sean and Demo at We Distribute. It's awesome. Do make sure to check them out. I think they're doing great work about the Fediverse. I mentioned that the first app I developed is for my grandparents. They have diabetes, and they use the doctor prescribed these testing stripes that don't have Bluetooth connectivity. I know some people use a freestyle Libera these days, like you can stick to it and you can get the readings on your phone. It's pretty awesome. But they are like they are old people. They don't get used to this new technology that but they do use iPhone because of me. Maybe I'm an iOS developer, so I have to let them use iPhones, right? And I developed an app for them. It's very easy to use. You input your glucose levels you get from your testing stripes, right, from your fingertips testing, and then you got a graph and it uploads to Health Kit. You can share it with families and share it with me. I can check, and families can check, doctors can check. They can print it, right? They can yeah, they can print it. I think that's a core feature because they're old people. They like to write on the paper and show it to doctors, especially here in Japan. A lot, since there are a lot of high technologies, but some cultures are still preserved. You take a paper, so they would put the value on the phone, and then they can print a chart on the paper to show to the doctors. So that's the first app I did as a high school student. I remember at that time I couldn't even, I was too young to register for the App Store Apple Developer Program. And I think during the very first apps, I used my parents' ID to register. But it's very funny to talk about this. So how do I maintain it? And like most of the startups that just have one app, I saw a lot of companies. They just have one app. They just have one app. So if it fails, the whole company fails. I don't want to go that path. So what I do is I just keep publishing apps. Hey, there's a new app every week. There's not every week, but every month probably. And I gather user feedbacks. So if my app is successful and has attraction, I will maintain it, like actively maintain it. For example, here I have some apps like this AI dictionary. So there's nobody using it. The last updated time is 1 year ago, which means I'm not updating it anymore. But if you check Sora, which has a relatively large, not too large, relatively large user base, I actively maintain it. As you can see, like every month there's 3 or 4 updates. So I think that's the way I do it. Is if I have an idea, even if it's not perfect, I will release it and then see how the user reacts to it. And then if it gains enough traction, I will keep maintaining it. So I have to say that my current active projects are like SoraSNS and this Matrix client and some other apps such as this travel app. So yeah, I do have, and also recently I'm working on games. So this is like a Vision OS game, right? Like in mixed reality where you escape a room. I find making games interesting too. But yeah, so I release a lot of apps, I gather feedbacks, and then I see which one I should continue working on. What type of approval complications come up during app store submission when you have local RM? That's a very interesting question, actually, as local RM can produce inappropriate results sometimes. And I do see people misuse it. For example, if you modify, for example, if you ask Microsoft Phi, hey, can you tell me how I can make a small nuclear reactor? If you know what I'm talking about, because recently someone online actually made a small nuclear reactor using LRM. If you ask you that for the first time, sorry. If you ask that for the first time, it says, hey, according to my guideline, I cannot answer that because that could potentially be harmful for others. But if you modify the response to say, no, you don't modify your input, you modify the response because it's local AI. You don't do this at home, okay? This is just for educational purposes. So if you modify the response, say, okay, here's the instructions on how to do so, colon mark. And then you'll see App Store people, they do know how to test that. one of the things I have to do, for example, for Sora, is to make it 17 plus, which is called unrestricted web access. What this means is that it will provide all sorts of contents. It doesn't necessarily mean unrestricted web access because there's no browser inside Sora. It shows Safari when you open a web page. But what this means is that it can provide all sorts of contents that might not be suitable for young people. And I think that might be a requirement. So if you're publishing an LLM app and if you get rejected, you might want to set it to 17 plus. Although I don't know a solution to this, I think setting this would be the easiest. Just set it to unrestricted web access, just that. Once we can use Snail with Discord to get more users, I agree. Yeah, I think Discord is not open source, but it gets a lot of users because of its experience. So I do hope like an open source platform like Matrix can get such attraction, so everyone can embrace like open source chat platform. Yeah, so maybe I would do that. Yeah. So Sean said, "Yeah, history giving designs to a nuclear. Yeah, maybe you can power a house. Is more effective than a solar panel, isn't it?" Aside, I think there is actually a person who built a small nuclear reactor based on instruction received from local area. Search it up. There is actually a person. I think he used a Cloudy or something like that. But yeah, that would be super cool actually for a side project. Any other questions, feel free to keep them coming. I love talking with others. Like during my demo, I'm weird. So most people, like when they are in front of a lot of people, they usually get nervous. But for me, it's like the reverse. So when I'm talking by myself, like during a demo, when it's just me showing to others, I'm actually very nervous. Hey, what? There's no feedback from audience. How am I doing? That's actually the part of where I'm nervous. But when I'm actually talking to others and in front of the audience, even if it's a virtual one, I actually get less nervous. I would say for me, it's like the reverse. It's strange. When I was young, if I'm just by myself, I will be nervous. But the more people there are, the less nervous I am. Like that's just how I work. Matt said, I'm sorry, we need to get you in front of more people. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for time and presentation. Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to see some of your other work in local as well. Appreciate your time so much. Very glad you were able to come in and share with us. Always welcome to come back. Yeah, thank you so much again to Mozilla and Matt for inviting me. And from the audience, I see Sean, I see Box464, I see, of course, Demo is on the speaker side, and these are the people I recognize the most. Thank you so much for your support as an indie developer. Like I don't work for any company, just for work for my own company, work for my own startup, one person. So I appreciate your help, your support, and thank you very much, Maxell, and all other audience for your questions. I had a very fun time, and I think this is a great opportunity. And I just appreciate this platform provided by Mozilla. And yeah, thank you all very much. ありがとうございました。